Prince Fletcher grew into a handsome man, but he wasn't happy just being handsome.
I want to be famous.
What if I told you the most iconic cartoon of the 60s was basically a scam? Fractured Fairy Tales wasn't just a segment on Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was a Trojan Horse of satire hidden in a kids' show.
Boo!
The animation came from a location Hollywood studios refused to use. It was bankrolled by a sponsor who controlled exactly when you ate breakfast. And the man in charge, the name you saw on screen for 5 years, he had a secret that should have gotten the show canceled. We're uncovering the 40 strangest truths, from the illegal animation techniques to the hidden war against Disney.
This is a nose.
Looks more like a
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so that I may climb the golden stair.
Number 40. You'd think a groundbreaking American cartoon would be made in Hollywood, right? Wrong. Fractured Fairy Tales was animated at Gamma Productions in Mexico City by a crew with almost no experience. Jay Ward's production company outsourced the work to keep costs down, making it one of the first US TV cartoons to go overseas. The result? Crude animation that disappointed Ward himself. But here's the irony. The cheap visuals became part of the charm. Audiences overlooked the wonky drawings because the writing was razor sharp. Turns out you don't need smooth animation when your jokes land hard.
Let us take him home and give him sucker. You mean a lollipop?
Number 39. Edward Everett Horton wasn't some young voice actor looking for a break. He was a Hollywood veteran, born in 1886, already in his 70s when Fractured Fairy Tales debuted in November 1959. By then, he'd appeared in over 120 films, perfected the art of the double take, and worked with legends like Ernst Lubitsch and Frank Capra. His warm, grandfatherly delivery wasn't an act, it was genuine. That soothing voice that made twisted fairy tales feel safe? It came from a man who'd been performing since before World War I. Peak casting, everyone. Number 38. Most sponsors pay for airtime and slap their logo on the credits. General Mills went further. They retained all US television rights to Rocky and Bullwinkle, which included Fractured Fairy Tales. That's an unusually powerful position for a cereal company. It meant General Mills controlled how, when, and where the show aired, not just the network. This rights structure also complicated syndication for decades, as ownership shifted hands multiple times. So yes, the company that brought you Cheerios also controlled one of the smartest cartoons on TV. Priorities, people.
Well, what do you want, you muddy little old man?
Are you the good fairy?
Of course I'm the good fairy.
Number 37. This wasn't a handful of throwaway segments. Over the show's 5-year run from 1959 to 1964, Fractured Fairy Tales produced 91 complete episodes. That's a massive library of reimagined stories, from Cinderella to Rumpelstiltskin to obscure European folk tales most American kids had never heard of. Each one clocked in around 5 minutes, which meant writers had to nail the setup, twist, and punchline fast. The sheer volume proves this wasn't a side project. It was a core pillar of the Rocky and Bullwinkle variety show format. Quantity and quality.
You have created a finster.
You mean monster?
I know a guy named Finster who's a monster.
Number 36. One Fractured Fairy Tales episode turned Sleeping Beauty into a tourist trap. In Sleeping Beauty Land, the cursed princess became a roadside attraction where people paid admission to see her sleep. Sound familiar? This was a direct jab at Disneyland, which had opened just a few years earlier in 1955. The joke wasn't subtle. Fairy tales weren't sacred stories anymore. They were products, packaged and sold. It's the kind of media-savvy satire you'd expect from a modern Adult Swim show, not a sponsor-driven Saturday morning cartoon. But Fractured Fairy Tales never played it safe. Number 35. One Fractured Fairy Tale didn't just end when the credits rolled. It hopped into its own show. The Frog Prince segment became the basis for The Adventures of Hoppity Hooper, which ran from 1964 to 1967. The character was popular enough that Jay Ward Productions built a whole series around him, complete with new storylines and a recurring cast. It's proof that Fractured Fairy Tales wasn't just a filler segment, it was a creative incubator. Some of those 5-minute stories packed enough charm to sustain entire franchises. Not bad for a talking frog.
Goat? That's my daughter. You get to marry her.
Hello, honey.
Number 34. Fractured Fairy Tales wasn't marketed as adult comedy, but it earned a reputation for being over kids' heads. Critics and parents noted that much of the humor, political satire, wordplay, showbiz references, flew past younger viewers. The puns were multi-layered, the parodies required cultural knowledge, and the self-aware jokes broke the fourth wall. It was a variety show disguised as a children's cartoon, and everyone knew it. Adults watched because it was genuinely funny. Kids watched because it had castles and dragons, and somehow that balance made it brilliant.
What's all the fuss?
The little princess has grown.
All princesses grow.
Like that?
Oh.
Number 33. Most cartoons stick with one network for their entire lifespan. Fractured Fairy Tales didn't. Rocky and Bullwinkle, and its segments, started on ABC in 1959, then jumped to NBC in 1961. Network shifts like that were unusual for animated programming in the early 60s, especially for a show that was already successful. The move came with a title change too. Rocky and his friends became The Bullwinkle Show. But Fractured Fairy Tales stayed consistent, proving the segment had its own identity. Two networks, same sarcasm.
Is this where I get changed into a frog?
Worse than that, fella. Let me look.
Number 32. Edward Everett Horton brought warmth and wit to Fractured Fairy Tales, but he didn't get to enjoy its legacy for long. The show's original run ended in June 1964. Horton died of cancer in September 1970, just 6 years later at age 84. He'd spent his final working years narrating twisted fairy tales for children and adults who adored his delivery. By the time he passed, the show was already in syndication, introducing new audiences to his voice. He never knew how many generations would grow up hearing him say, "Once upon a time."
If you're gonna live on this mountain, you gotta pay the tax.
Then we won't live on the mountain.
Number 31. June Foray voiced nearly every female character in Fractured Fairy Tales, from princesses to witches to talking animals. But she couldn't make every recording session. When scheduling conflicts with voice work for Stan Freberg kept her away, the production didn't panic. They called in substitutes. Julie Bennett filled in for 3 episodes, and Dorothy Scott, wife of co-producer Bill Scott, covered a few more. It's a reminder that the Rocky and Bullwinkle universe was scrappy, in-house, and family run. If you couldn't make the session, someone's spouse might read your lines. Number 30. When you watched an episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle, you weren't watching one story. You were watching a variety pack. Each half-hour episode contained multiple segments: a Rocky and Bullwinkle cliffhanger, a Fractured Fairy Tale, a Peabody's Improbable History, maybe a Dudley Do-Right. That's why the franchise totals look wild. 163 episodes, but 685 segments. Fractured Fairy Tales was never the show. It was one piece of a rotating lineup. This variety format was Jay Ward's genius move. If one segment didn't grab you, another one would 2 minutes later. Attention spans managed.
I want to be famous, like Daddy.
Alas, being the son of a great man,
Number 29. Jay Ward hated the animation quality coming out of Mexico. It was stiff, crude, and full of mistakes. Characters' mouths didn't sync, proportions shifted between frames, and movements looked robotic. But audiences didn't care. In fact, the low-budget visuals became iconic. The show proved that sharp writing could carry an entire series even when the animation looked like it was drawn on napkins. Critics overlooked the technical flaws because the jokes were too good to ignore. Fractured Fairy Tales became the gold standard for content over polish. Style? Optional. Wit? Essential.
Right now, you've got to take the pet cow to market and sell it.
That's not a cow, Mama.
Number 28. The term limited animation sounds like an artistic decision. It wasn't. It was an economic necessity. Jay Ward Productions couldn't afford the fluid, frame-by-frame animation Disney was doing, so they used shortcuts. Static backgrounds, reused scenes, characters that moved only their mouths or arms. This technique kept costs low enough to produce hundreds of segments on a TV budget. Fractured Fairy Tales leaned into these constraints, letting the narrator and voice actors do the heavy lifting. The result? A show that felt more like radio theater with pictures. And somehow, it worked perfectly.
Well, Snow Baby, how does it feel to be Mrs. Prince Charming?
Oh, wonderful.
Number 27. Fractured fairy tales existed because General Mills wanted kids watching TV during breakfast cereal hours. That's not hyperbole. That's how children's programming worked in the early 60s. Networks sold airtime to sponsors, and sponsors decided what got made. General Mills bankrolled Rocky and Bullwinkle to sell Cheerios and Trix, which is why the show aired in after-school and Saturday morning slots. The corporate machine was literally funding satire about corporate machines. The irony wasn't lost on Jay Ward, who built an entire segment mocking commercialization. Meta before meta was cool.
Help! Save me! Help!
Who are you?
I'm a brownie.
Isn't that a kind of a fudge cookie?
Number 26. Even though it was technically a segment inside Rocky and Bullwinkle, Fractured Fairy Tales got its own IMDb page, its own episode listings, and its own 1959 to 1964 date range. That's how strongly it established its own identity. Fans didn't say, "I love that one part of Rocky and Bullwinkle." They said, "I love Fractured Fairy Tales." Over time, it became so recognizable that syndication packages treated it like a standalone show. Some TV guides even listed it separately. It was a segment that outgrew its parent show. Small world, big impact.
I've got a nose like a cassava melon.
Okay, move over. What'd you just say?
Number 25. If you watched in 1959 on ABC, you saw Rocky and his friends. If you watched in 1961 on NBC, you saw The Bullwinkle Show. Same content, different branding. Later, when the show hit syndication, it became The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, a blanket title that covered everything. This naming confusion persisted for decades, making it hard for fans to track down episodes or know what they were actually watching. But through all the rebranding, Fractured Fairy Tales stayed consistent. The segment had a stronger identity than its host show.
Ow! Mother of pearl, I kicked a witch.
You know what I do?
Number 24. Before Shrek, before Once Upon a Time, before every DreamWorks movie that winked at the camera, there was Fractured Fairy Tales. It didn't just parody individual stories, it established the formula. Take a familiar tale, flip the expectations, modernize the humor, and land a moral that's smarter than the original. This approach became a genre. Fractured Fairy Tales ran from 1959 to 1964 and created a blueprint that's still being used today. Every time a movie puts a princess in therapy or makes the villain sympathetic, it's following a path this show paved 60 years ago.
He's done it again. He's eaten everything in the house.
Not quite, dearie. I hit a chicken fried pig.
Number 23. Horton wasn't a cartoon guy. He was a character actor with serious credentials. He'd starred in Top Hat with Fred Astaire, Lost Horizon with Frank Capra, and Arsenic and Old Lace with Cary Grant. He perfected a specific comedic style, the flustered, nervous gentleman whose reactions were funnier than the joke itself. By the time he narrated Fractured Fairy Tales, he'd been in the business for 50 years. His voice carried weight because it came from someone who'd worked with the best. That's why the narration felt so trustworthy, even when the story was absurd.
Hi, Dad, down there.
Good heavens, he's 7 feet.
Number 22. General Mills didn't just fund the show, they locked down the US television rights in a way that complicated everything for decades. When Jay Ward Productions wanted to repackage episodes, they had to navigate General Mills' ownership. When new companies tried to distribute the show, they hit the same wall. The rights shifted hands multiple times, from General Mills to various studios, to Classic Media, to DreamWorks, to Universal, and every transfer made the legal situation messier. It's why some episodes were easier to find than others. Corporate contracts, everyone. They never expire cleanly.
Could I borrow your comb?
No time now. We gotta get started on your story.
Number 21. Fractured Fairy Tales used the same 5 or 6 voice actors for nearly every role. June Foray voiced all the women. Bill Scott and Paul Frees voiced most of the men. Dawes Butler filled in the gaps. Edward Everett Horton narrated. That's it. No guest stars, no celebrity cameos, no rotation. Just a small, experienced crew that could turn around 5-minute episodes fast. This repetition created consistency. You always knew what a Fractured Fairy Tales witch would sound like because June Foray always played her. It was theater troupe energy in animated form, efficiency, and chemistry.
The world, I got a nose like a cassava melon.
Number 20. You know how most cartoon intros were cheap and cheerful? Not Rocky and Bullwinkle. The opening sequence, featuring that iconic theme song and animated credits, cost close to $1 million to produce. That's an absurd amount for a low-budget TV cartoon in 1959. For context, entire episodes of other shows were made for less. But Jay Ward wanted something memorable, something that screamed, "This is different." He got it. That opening became one of the most recognizable in television history. The irony? The actual animation inside each episode looked like it cost $12. Priorities.
Have a bite? Say, that is tasty.
Number 19. When June Foray couldn't make a Fractured Fairy Tales recording, they called Julie Bennett. And Bennett wasn't some random substitute. She was a legendary voice actress in her own right. She voiced Cindy Bear on Yogi Bear and worked on dozens of Hanna-Barbera shows. Having her step in was like replacing one all-star with another. But here's the thing, most viewers never noticed the switch. Bennett matched Foray's energy so well that the episodes flowed seamlessly. It's a testament to how professional and tight-knit the voice acting community was in the early 60s.
Well, we can't let you throw your life away.
Then you'll leave me?
Number 18. Fractured Fairy Tales didn't just twist old stories, it used them to mock contemporary America. Episodes lampooned commercialism, Hollywood greed, corporate culture, and consumer obsession. Sleeping Beauty Land turned a princess into a theme park attraction. Rumpelstiltskin became a showbiz contract dispute. The humor wasn't about dragons or castles, it was about how everything gets monetized. In the middle of the Cold War, sponsored by a cereal company, Fractured Fairy Tales was quietly roasting capitalism. And nobody stopped them because it was just a cartoon. Subversive? Absolutely.
Well, all you give him for his work is chicken feed.
Goose feed.
Number 17. Look up Fractured Fairy Tales in any TV archive and you'll see it labeled as satire or comedy, not children's programming. That classification matters. It means the show was always intended for a dual audience, kids who liked the silliness and adults who caught the references. The fairy tales were props for sketch comedy. The format was variety show, not kiddie hour. Networks marketed it to children because of the animation and time slot, but the creative team knew exactly what they were making. Smart, layered satire disguised as bedtime stories.
Hey, Fatso, come here.
Yes?
Hey, let me see if that nose is real. Hey, what do you know?
Number 16. The Frog Prince wasn't just a one-off character. He became the star of his own series. The Adventures of Hoppity Hooper premiered in 1964, and multiple sources, including the Big Cartoon Database, confirm the character originated in a Fractured Fairy Tales episode. Jay Ward took a supporting player from a 5-minute segment and built an entire show around him. It's proof that Fractured Fairy Tales had enough creative depth to spawn spin-offs. Some shows struggled to sustain one concept. This one launched franchises from scraps.
So you got all this with a wishing hat, did you?
This is the hat on my head, and my name is Booby.
Number 15. When Jay Ward and Bill Scott invented their fictional executive producer, they didn't just give him a fancy name. They gave him an honor. Ponsonby Britt, OBE, stands for Officer of the Order of the British Empire, a real British title given to distinguished citizens. It made him sound important, credible, legitimate, and the networks bought it completely. No one questioned whether this distinguished British gentleman actually existed. The joke worked because it looked official. Ward and Scott understood something crucial. If you dress up a lie in the right credentials, people stop asking questions.
Virgil, that's his name. Ask me again and I'll tell you the same.
Number 14. Fractured Fairy Tales wasn't made by a massive animation studio with hundreds of employees. It was a scrappy operation. Jay Ward Productions in Hollywood handled writing, voice recording, and storyboards. Then everything got shipped to Mexico for animation. The core creative team, Ward, Bill Scott, a handful of writers, and the voice cast, produced 91 episodes in 5 years, while also working on the main Rocky and Bullwinkle segments, Peabody's Improbable History, and Dudley Do-Right. It was a lean, mean storytelling machine. No bloat, no bureaucracy. Just smart people working fast.
And now I have a good mind to touch you. Oh, dear Dad.
Number 13. Here's the beautiful irony. Fractured Fairy Tales spent 5 years exposing kings, queens, and powerful figures as fools. Meanwhile, the show's own credits listed a fake executive producer, Ponsonby Britt, as the authority figure overseeing everything. The show's entire philosophy was, don't trust the people in charge, and they proved it by making up their own person in charge. It's the most fractured fairy tales thing imaginable. The joke wasn't just in the episodes, it was baked into the credits, and nobody caught on for years.
Oh, Princess Fair, your golden hair, upon your head, I see it there.
Number 12. Writing a complete story in 5 minutes is brutally hard. You need a recognizable fairy tale, a comedic twist, character development, jokes that land, and a satisfying ending. All in 300 seconds. Fractured Fairy Tales did this 91 times. There's no room for filler. Every line had to either advance the plot or get a laugh. Ideally both. That discipline made the writing impossibly tight. It's why the episodes hold up today. There's no dead air, no meandering, just precision comedy. Modern streaming shows could learn something from this format.
You're going to get cooked.
But you said you would grant me a wish.
So I lied.
Number 11. Ugly won the war. Fractured Fairy Tales looked rough. The animation was stiff, the character designs were simple, and the backgrounds were often static. But none of that mattered because the writing and voice acting carried everything. It became a case study in how content beats polish. Audiences didn't need fluid movement or lush colors. They needed smart jokes and engaging stories. The show's success proved that animation could thrive on wit alone. Decades later, shows like South Park would use the same philosophy. If the writing's good enough, nobody cares about the art style.
What's that inside the tray?
A squirrel?
With blue eyes?
Number 10. Fractured Fairy Tales aired during children's programming blocks, but parents and educators complained it wasn't really for kids. The humor was dense with political references, literary allusions, and showbiz satire that required adult knowledge to fully appreciate. Some critics argued it was irresponsible to air something so sophisticated in an after-school slot. Others praised it for respecting children's intelligence. The controversy proved the show was doing something right. It refused to dumb itself down. It trusted that smart kids would grow into the jokes and adults would stick around for the cleverness. Both happened.
Look at those two stunning creatures.
Number 9. June Foray wasn't just the lead voice actress for Fractured Fairy Tales. She was the entire female cast. Princesses, witches, fairy godmothers, evil queens, talking animals, and even some male characters all came from her. She could switch between a squeaky mouse, a cackling hag, and a regal princess within the same episode without breaking a sweat. Her range was so extraordinary that Disney and Warner Brothers hired her to voice Witch Hazel based on her Fractured Fairy Tales work. One woman, dozens of characters, 91 episodes. That's not voice acting, that's vocal Olympics. Number 8. Fractured Fairy Tales regularly broke the fourth wall before that was a common move. Characters would comment on being in a story, argue with the narrator, or acknowledge they were in a cartoon. In one episode, a villain literally grabs the narrator and ties him up on screen. This kind of meta humor wouldn't become mainstream until the 1990s with shows like Animaniacs and later Rick and Morty. But Fractured Fairy Tales was doing it in 1959, casually dismantling the boundaries between fiction and audience. It was postmodern before postmodernism had a name. Number 7. Gamma Productions in Mexico City didn't just animate Rocky and Bullwinkle. They also worked on competing cartoons like King Leonardo, Tennessee Tuxedo, and Underdog. This created confusion for decades because characters from different studios ended up in the same syndication packages. When Bullwinkle's restaurant chain opened in the 1980s, they mixed Jay Ward characters with Total Television characters because they shared the same animation studio. Fans couldn't tell where one universe ended and another began. Gamma blurred the lines between franchises simply by animating everything with the same wonky style.
I have a nice shiny poi apple for you.
Are you kidding? I'm not stupid enough.
Number 6. The 50-year-old sweater secret. During a recording session, June Foray complimented the sweater Edward Everett Horton was wearing. His response? He'd received it as a gift when he was in high school. Considering Horton was in his 70s during Fractured Fairy Tales, that meant he'd owned the sweater for more than half a century. He'd kept it through a 50-year film career, a move to television, and countless costume changes. It's a small detail, but it perfectly captures who Horton was. A man of habit, loyalty, and old-school Hollywood class. That sweater probably had better credits than most actors.
Say, that looks like a golden harp laying next to that fella.
Number 5. General Mills didn't just sponsor Fractured Fairy Tales for fun, they were engineering children's television. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, cereal companies realized kids controlled breakfast purchases, so they bankrolled cartoon blocks to capture that audience. Rocky and Bullwinkle, with its rotating segments like Fractured Fairy Tales, became a cornerstone of this strategy. General Mills funded the show, controlled the rights, and dictated the time slots. The result? Saturday morning cartoons became a cultural institution. Fractured Fairy Tales didn't just entertain kids, it helped invent the format that defined childhood for generations. Number 4. Fractured Fairy Tales loved puns. Loved them. The writers stuffed episodes with wordplay so dense that critics either praised the cleverness or rolled their eyes at the groan-worthy excess. Little Jack Horner pulled out a plum and declared, "Lord, what foods these morsels be!" a Shakespeare riff most kids wouldn't catch. But that was the point. The show operated on multiple levels. Kids laughed at the silliness, adults caught the references, and everyone enjoyed the sheer audacity of cramming that many jokes into 5 minutes. It was exhausting, ambitious, and unapologetically nerdy. Peak J. Ward energy. Number 3. Fractured Fairy Tales ran on corporate money while satirizing corporate greed. General Mills paid the bills while episodes mocked commercialization. ABC and NBC aired a show that made fun of television itself, and nobody stopped it because the satire was wrapped in fairy tales and funny voices. The writers knew exactly what they were doing, using the system to criticize the system. It's the same energy as getting paid by a bank to make a movie about how banks are corrupt. Subversion hidden in plain sight. Genius or insanity? Both.
How much money do you have?
Oh, 100 million gringos, you know.
Number 2. Before Fractured Fairy Tales, fairy tale parodies were rare. After it, they became an industry. Shrek, Once Upon a Time, Into the Woods, Enchanted, Maleficent, The Princess Bride. All of them owe a debt to this show. It established the formula. Take a familiar story, flip the script, modernize the morals, and wink at the audience. Fractured Fairy Tales didn't just succeed, it created a blueprint that's still being followed 60 years later. Every time a movie puts a twist on a classic tale, it's walking a path this 5-minute cartoon segment paved in 1959. Cultural impact? Massive. Number 1. The executive never existed. Here's the wildest part about Fractured Fairy Tales. The entire show, the entire Rocky and Bullwinkle universe, credited a man who didn't exist. When networks demanded official producer biographies in 1959, J. Ward and Bill Scott didn't comply. They invented Ponsonby Britt, OBE, a fictional British aristocrat with fake credentials and an impressive sounding title. Networks accepted it without question. For 5 years, millions watched a cartoon that mocked authority while listing a fake authority figure in the credits. It's the ultimate Fractured Fairy Tales move, exposing how easily institutions trust appearances over substance. The joke was on everyone, and nobody knew it. Bonus fact. Here's something that will change how you see this show forever. The executive producer listed in every credit, Ponsonby Britt, OBE, was completely fake. When networks demanded official producer biographies in 1959, J. Ward and Bill Scott didn't comply. They invented a fictional British aristocrat with fake credentials and an impressive title. Networks accepted it without verification. For 5 years, millions watched a show mocking authority while a fake authority figure appeared in the credits. The ultimate irony? A cartoon exposing frauds was overseen by one. Nobody caught on until decades later. Fractured Fairy Tales regularly broke the fourth wall before that was a common move. Characters would comment on being in a story, argue with the narrator, or acknowledge they were in a cartoon. In one episode, a villain literally grabs the narrator and ties him up on screen. This kind of meta humor wouldn't become mainstream until the 1990s with shows like Animaniacs and later Rick and Morty. But Fractured Fairy Tales was doing it in 1959, casually dismantling the boundaries between fiction and audience. It was postmodern before postmodernism had a name.